Hi, this is Dr. Gayle MacBride, and I just wanted to thank you for getting all the way to the end of season 2. I hope you've enjoyed this season with all of our guests. We are busy working on season 3, so I want you to watch out for it to drop in early 2026. In the meantime, enjoy a mix of rerun episodes that have been curated for you by our intrepid host, Michael MacBride. These rerun episodes are a mix of the most listened to, the least listened to, and all of our guests. We're going to give them a repeat performance as well. So thank you for following along with us on this journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. This helps us get more listeners. And please, even though we are on a break, we are watching our mailbag. So thanks for listening and look forward to season 3 in 2026.
Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas psychology partners.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Michael MacBride, and I'm joined by our trio of psychologists again today.
I'm Dr. Gayle MacBride. I'm thrilled to be back here with my business partner, Dr. Daniel Kessler, and also Dr. Lauren Fogel-Mercy has decided to join us for another episode. She is an ASECT certified. I got to tell you, by the way, that always sounds like sex to me, so it's such an aptly named organization. ASECT is a sex therapy group with which you get certified to do actual sex therapy work. And so Dr. Fogel-Mercy is a specialist in that, as well as certified in emotionally focused couples work. Welcome again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thrilled you're back with us.
Really appreciate you joining us for like a bonus podcast. You had originally agreed to do one, and after the first one, I'm assuming it was just so much fun that you decided to come back and do a second podcast with us. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Oh, it's always fun to talk to you both.
All right.
And Michael as well.
Michael, you got something for us, right?
Yeah, well, welcome all three of you. But first of all, for the newbies out there, if you don't know what Am I the Asshole is, in short, someone's posted a scenario online and asked readers, who's the asshole here? And that's hopefully what we'll determine today, or at least weigh in on, I guess I should say. When there are any kind of identifiable information on the post, we've changed those to be a little more discreet. And if you're new, you should stick around because we always have some kind of bonus conversation. So today's topic is, am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend to stop eating so much?
Probably.
Yeah.
So this starts off one of my very favorite ways, which is acknowledging that couples, it just says, this is such a stupid fight, honestly, but internet, do your thing.
Yeah. And as we know, because we all do couples work, people almost always come in and saying, tell us that they fought over the stupidest things. I mean, yes, we fight over big things, but usually I find people just absolutely falling apart over something that was just a tiny little pebble in the shoe and we just lose it.
But it's almost always about, we step back about this. The thing has been building, and this insult is emblematic of some major issue in the relationship. But we get caught up on the thing instead of talking about the problem that underlies it.
Right.
Lauren, is that your experience with couples, or what? I mean, how do you react when people come to you and say, "This is the dumbest thing ever"?
Yeah, I mean, I always validate, right? Like we could be arguing about cheese. Like it really doesn't matter what the thing is, because it's usually about something deeper, like we're saying, the Gottmans, who are couples therapy and researcher experts, talk about how the number one thing that couples fight about is nothing. But really what they're talking about is, it could be anything. It's not really nothing, it's anything, because it's really about something deeper. And usually that something deeper is more of a core relational or attachment need. Like, I need to know that I matter to you and I'm important to you and I'm a priority and you care. And those are interwoven into these content conversations.
Yeah, I love that, the way you said that. I also love the statistics, or the statistic rather, that comes out of their group that says 69% of all conflict will never get solved. Like, we're not here to solve it. We're here to talk about it. We're here to be emotional together and supportive and validating and those things. And this is why these little pebble issues keep coming up, is because we have these, what Gottman's call perpetual issues, and they rear up in different ways through different activities and tasks and episodes in our life. And so we're not not always looking to solve it so much as just be caring and supportive partners.
Yeah.
Right.
And that message to couples sometimes like, but we can't resolve this issue. Yes. And that's pretty normal to not like, that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to build the relationship and to develop a connection around these things. And that if your goal is to solve the problem or resolve the argument and figure out who's right, you're probably not going to succeed most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people that the Gottmans are love optimists, right? They think almost any relationship can work. There are a couple caveats to that, but this is not a doom and gloom statistic. This is coming from a group that really believes in long-term loving partnering relationships. So, that's just a heaping helping dose of normal here.
Yeah. But we got
I find
off
the
track.
statistic very, I was just going to say, I find the statistic
Please.
to be very hopeful in that, a lot of people will take it as like, oh my gosh, we'll never solve anything and we'll be stuck and we'll be unhappy. And no, it really means that, a lot of people will second guess their relationships. Am I with the right person? Are we compatible? Should we be together? This means that across the board, no matter who you're partnered with, you're going to have a set of challenges. The question is, which challenges are you willing to grapple with over time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to make sure that the ones you're grappling with are not non-negotiable things for you, where you have a complete, like, I cannot live with this kind of scenario. Then that's a different story, right? If it's a non-negotiable. Usually what we're grappling with is negotiable things. They could be flexible. They could be things that we actually do have the ability to kind of tumble with over the years. But this question is really interesting, right? The automatic response that both of you had was like, yeah, because it's such a tender topic, right? What somebody's eating, how much they're eating. I would be so curious, what is the concern behind the food intake, right?
Yeah, so we should probably, based on that, listen to the rest of the scenario.
I was going to
also
say,
jump in with books and covers. Lauren has definitely brought us back to what we're supposed to be doing here. Thank you.
and this is one where I don't want to say it's bait and switch, but it like goes in a direction I didn't expect from reading the caption. So here's the rest of it, and it's fairly short, but it says, during my undergrad, my parents covered my grocery bills to support my health. They never set a limit on how much food I could buy, but I always stayed frugal with about $200 per month. Now in grad school, they're generously helping again, which lets me focus on rent and loans without stress. I still plan meals carefully to respect their generosity, though. I'm female, 25. The problem is my boyfriend, 27, eats almost everything in my kitchen when he's over. Snacks, frozen meals, meat, even half-eaten cheese. This forces me to spend my own money because I don't want to increase the grocery bill when my parents are covering, and it's wrecking my budget. We've argued. He's saying my parents are paying anyway, so I shouldn't worry, and I eat at his place too, but not nearly as much. I think he's being inconsiderate. He leaves nothing but vegetables and could eat less, or could stand to eat less. I've banned him from cooking and taking raw ingredients and now limit what he can eat when he visits. After the third time he stopped talking to me. I think this feels petty, but am I wrong here? Who's the asshole?
He is.
Oh, she's got a little bit of a streak of
Really?
at least suckiness here. I don't like how she's going about it.
No.
She's made her boundary known, but then she's banning him and she's coming in with some harsh judgments about he could stand to eat less. So let me be clear. I don't like the boyfriend's behavior. I think he's being disrespectful, but I'm not going to let her off scot-free. So I don't know, take that with what you will. We're here to debate.
This is taking a turn that I didn't foresee, right?
Right. That's what Michael said. I think it's great.
I thought at first this was going to be about like the consumption and something about bodies or vanity or anxieties or something in that nature. And this is really this is a valid concern to bring up, right? I'm on a budget. You're coming to my home. I am trying to stick to a budget, and I am trying to be respectful both of my parents helping me in this way, and being very thoughtful about how much I spend and what I spend my money on. And you're coming to my place. And so this is really a conversation around requests and boundaries and limits and respect.
Mm-hmm.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Here's a situation where in my home, with my money, with the things I've purchased, like I have the right to make decisions around that. I have the right to make choices around what I'm willing to provide and not provide for a guest in my home, or a partner or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And to say like, this is my financial situation and this is what I've chosen to do in my home. And whether she's being reasonable or unreasonable, and I think she's being reasonable, but whether she's being reasonable or unreasonable, she's setting a boundary for herself. Like this is where, like, she's not telling him, she kind of bait and switched us. You're right, Lauren. Because it really isn't about her telling him what not to do. It's her telling him what she is willing to accept.
What you can do at my house with
Right.
the food that I have purchased, and that you are welcome to enter into my space, and here's how you're welcome to conduct yourself in my space, right? I think this is a really important conversation for a couple to have, right? That, this is my home, your home, who pays for what, how do we, distribute things, and conversations around what feels fair and equitable. And I think, Gayle, you're right that there's so much room for how do you have this conversation, right? So it's not just like, you can do this and you can't do that. And
Yeah, I think how you set a boundary matters. I think, when we gave the shout out to the Gottmans earlier, I think Dan, you and I often acknowledge that we don't know actually how this information was delivered to the relational partner. And there is a little bit in this post that makes me very much concerned that we have some criticism, some contempt, and certainly some stonewalling. You can't, right? And then I'm not letting him off the hook. I don't like his response. I really think he is not slowing down to listen to what's underneath the concern. They certainly have different ways to think about the support that she's receiving from her parents. But we also have to acknowledge that these are often written to put the poster in a better light. And I am very suspicious that what came out and what was intended, or what we're sort of supporting as a healthy boundary setting, were not the same thing here.
Yeah, I heard it totally differently.
Did you?
I heard her saying, this is what I heard. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, she wrote it potentially the way people often present their own side of the story. But like, I heard it like, what I heard is like, I talked to him about it. I tried to get him to do it differently. We had the conversation. He argued back around, well, your parents are paying for it anyway. By the way, they're her parents, and they're not choosing to pay for his food. They're choosing to pay for their daughter's food. So he's like crossing their boundaries too, by the way. All right.
Yeah.
So like, and what I heard more from this is not so much her breaking some rules and being unkind about it. I heard her exasperated and frustrated with like, I tried to do it the right way and you're not listening to me and you're still doing it your way anyway. And I heard anger there totally. from that. And I'm still like, I'm letting her off totally scot-free here.
Not at all, because then she comes back around and she says, and he could stand to eat less anyway.
Okay, fine.
No. She is angry and she has justified a condescending comment. It's not okay. She commented on his weight and shape and took it as a dig. I don't like it.
Yeah, she did mention the vegetables too. He only leaves the vegetables, which by the way is fine with me because I eat a lot of those. But there's an underlying dig here, and she is angry, and I get it, and I think she's using it to justify sort of unproductive comments, which is a trap we fall into. I'm really angry. I've set this boundary. I've said something repeatedly to someone that I love and care about, and now I'm really frustrated and upset. And sometimes we get to a place where we justify a really unproductive comment, or I only yelled at you because, like, we start to then marshal some maybe not so helpful data points to justify our own not great behavior afterward. So I think it maybe started in an okay place, but I think it drifted. You're moving me a little bit on this, but I want to hear. If Lauren can resolve the dispute between you and I on this.
Tiebreaker! Oh my gosh, you're a tiebreaker.
And I moved a little bit. Go ahead.
What we're hearing is that we're missing a lot of information. And I think without that information, it's really hard to weigh in on, who's out of bounds and who's inappropriate here.
Mm-hmm.
If I had this person in my office or this couple in my office, there would be a lot of things that I would want to know, right? How have these boundaries and requests been delivered?
Mm-hmm.
How have they been received? What does that conversation actually sound like and look like? And have we had conversations about not just the surface level, you're eating, a lot of my groceries and that's not leaving with me with a lot left over, and how I like to respect my parents, gift in helping me with this. I would love to see or hear if there have been some more vulnerable conversations around this, right? This is really uncomfortable for me. I'm feeling disrespected. I'm feeling misunderstood or not heard. This is the dilemma this puts me in. And I would really love to hear what the boyfriend is feeling and thinking and expressing around this. Where are you coming from? Because that's what's misunderstood here, right? It looks on the surface like he's being really disrespectful. He's just callous towards the parents. I want to understand a little bit more. Where are you coming from, sir? What is your perspective on this? What is your position? What feelings come up for you? Because if it's just your parents pay, you're my girlfriend, I get to come over and just do what I care to do, these may be some bigger conversations for the relationship, right? Like if you are sharing really clearly, this is my, comfort, this is my request, this is my boundary, this is my home, this is how I value money and gifts that are given to me from my parents. And if those conversations turn into, if it really is a cut and dry, like, you're my girlfriend, your parents pay, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want at your place.
Yeah.
Those may be bigger conversations for the
that
relationship.
would be problematic for sure. Or the well, you eat food at my place. Like, right. Then we're back to fairness and equity. And how do we perceive that we share our respective resources as a couple? Like, what does that look like? And do we feel comfortable with how we have divvied that up? Not just because one individual in a couple perceives an equitable sort of split doesn't mean the other one does. And it's still then time for negotiation because both parties have to feel good. We don't get to get one person saying, I think the line is here and this, and because this is the way I see it, then that's just it.
And so often when we see things from our perspective, we really do believe that we're being fair and equitable, even when we're not. And there's great sociological research around the tragedy of the commons and all that other stuff. A link in the show notes on that. Michael immediately start typing.
Right. I love the line of, they think they're right.
Yeah.
Like starting from that point, this couple, if they were to be in the office of a therapist, like, I got to tell you, I got to break it to you. He thinks he's right.
Yeah.
So we need to listen to, at least better understand where he thinks he's right here. And
I need to know so much more.
Lean into that.
Where is he coming from?
This would be a terrific conversation because it almost has to be about this plus other aspects of the relationship.
Yeah.
And when couples do come to us, we're dealing with the argument that came up most recently, but then we have the opportunity to talk about, like, how else does this occur and what is this really all about, and not what it's really about, but what does this mean to you, and what kind of conversations, interactions are you having over time? Are you feeling respected in the relationship? Are you feeling nurtured in the relationship? Are you feeling cared for? Do you feel like you're getting your needs, wants met? That we're connecting with each other, and where are we failing each other?
I just had a massaged facts version of this as you were saying it, Dan. So here's my massaged facts.
Okay.
He's in graduate school. They're dating. He's maybe also in school and on a really shoestring budget, but he doesn't I told you, massage facts, hang with me. He does not have the financial support and resources like she does from her family. And so he's really enjoying how her parents are taking care of her and providing food. And so maybe he's leaning into that and feeling kind of cared for in that food budget in a way that he doesn't get, and that he's, working some pizza job to kind of make his food budget. And so I'm hoping he's not a caring and disrespectful or uncaring and disrespectful person, but rather, enjoying the support that someone else's family has been able to give.
Yeah. Which is exactly why it's so important to hear, both of these angles, right? And it's so easy. And I think, in the world of social media and even in the world of individual therapy, right? As therapists, it's so easy for us to just hear one perspective. That perspective makes sense. It's like, here's where I'm coming from. Here's what's happening. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it paints a picture of the other person on the surface and on the outside. And yet we're missing data, right? We
Right.
often do things, say things, feel things that make sense within our context. And until we understand the context, it's so easy to just jump to a conclusion, right? You're just being a jerk, you're disrespectful, but Gail, you're bringing in nuance and a perspective and a point that could say, hey, I don't have a budget like yours. And I have some scarcity that comes up when I'm around. And so I'm just kind of leaning into sort of this abundance when I'm with you, where there's food access that I don't have at home, or whatever the situation may be. But until we hear more of that, and until they can talk like that with each other, we're going to continue to misunderstand what's really happening and what's below the surface. So my first question, if they were together in my office, would be, what happens when you try to talk about this?
I like when working with, I work with both couples and individuals, and I really love to lean into Julia and John Gottman's idea of assuming positive intent. And like, let's assume that your partner, let's just start from your partner's not an asshole. Just assume that. And if you're, because if you assume they're an asshole and they're not, it's like way worse than if you assume they're not and it turns out they are. But let's assume that your partner's not an asshole because you're choosing to be with them. Using Gail's words, if we're going to massage the fact, like, what are the possible other reasons why they could be doing this, and really getting the person to explore, again, the couple to explore what are the other possible motivations other than the negative assumption you've made about your partner. And we've talked about a few of those. The two of you have talked about a few of those already here. I'm sure there are many possibilities that we haven't even thought of, and really to get them to explore within that assumption that your partner is a caring, loving person who is not a jerk. Because if they are an asshole, then there's no point in even having this discussion. Like, be done with it. But if we're going to assume that you're going to be together and they're not, so what are their motivations? What could it be that's not horrible?
And I think that it's really easy here for someone in the poster's friend group to say, like, red flag on the play, get out of there. He's, and then just shut it down.
That's just so easy to do.
Yeah, what could happen out of some really good couples therapy is, even if they don't stay together in the long run, they are now learning about their own patterns and how they can contribute to issues within a relationship. And so even if they get the opportunity to learn, hey, in this is how I contribute, maybe I can do something different in a future relationship. So sometimes couples therapy isn't necessarily, our goal is not necessarily to keep them together or break them up. Sometimes it's really to just kind of clarify these processes so that we can be good humans in this or a future relationship.
And in a situation like this, it is very easy to jump on, she's right, he's wrong, black and white, red flags, all of this kind of thing, which is really, I think, a tragedy in that we're missing so much, and we might be bypassing some really great opportunities for relational growth. And that so many things do fall within, healthy sort of relationship experiences. And one of the things that we're maybe assuming is that she's shared a lot about her perspective and tried to get him to see where she's coming from. I would love to know if this person has also asked and got curious about him, right? Where are you? So here's where I'm coming from. Here's how I feel and think about this. Where are you coming from? How do you think and feel about this? What's this really about for you? Because until we can do both, we're missing information, and that information can be really critical in terms of where we go from here.
Michael, I'm curious, what do we get from the comments? Do we get any clarifying information?
Because the internet will likely not have these nuanced perspectives.
I was sitting here listening to you guys, and that was exactly what I was going to say. I was like, "This is why you go to therapy and not to the internet," because
That's a great no, exactly, because I think this is so often people's like, all of my friends said this, or I talked to so and so, or I asked, am I the asshole, and they said for sure. And I love what you said there, Lauren, about like it is so easy to jump to just leave him, or this is a red flag, or hey, this is terrible, and to some degree, I feel a little bit of a guilty responsibility for like joining in with some of that with what we're doing, even. But what we're trying to do here, hopefully, is do that, ask people to do that deeper dive, because we massage the facts a little bit, not because we're changing the scenario, but because there are so many possibilities here. There's so much beyond what people just that initial surface level. And if we can really dive into it, we can make a lot more sense of it. However, we're here to find out what the internet said right now.
And they very much said you're not the asshole, for all the reasons you guys said. It is your house, it is your food, it is your budget, it is your parent, it's your relationship with your parents, it's all those things. The problem then is, for the most part, they started going down this line of saying that he's a narcissist, you need to leave him, and all this stuff. And so it was all these things like, red flags. He's entitled to your food and in possessions. That's a problem. He's entitled to your parents' finances. I don't think so. He doesn't care that he leaves little for you. Like, he hasn't apologized. He's a greedy asshole, so on, so on. But I will say my very favorite, even though it ended up being kind of a harsh comment about narcissism, it started with "yikes on bikes."
This is such a great example of one of the challenges with the internet, right? As humans, we are really pulled towards a negativity bias and assuming negative intent and seeing things very black and white. And this plays out in spades on the internet. And it can actually be quite dangerous, right? When you have everyone dogpile into like, leave him, red flags, tossing around diagnostic terms, right? It can be really easy to go in the direction of, I'm with the wrong person, and, everybody agrees with me. But I go back to something Gayle said, right? You started to share a possibility, right? What if this is somebody who has food insecurity? Maybe he's struggling, maybe. And when you hear that, and if any of that could be true, that really could sway the conversation, the decision making, the empathy, the understanding, and bring you to a totally different, conversation and scenario.
Yeah.
So that is something that is so hard to find online. And I like to just really remind people, right? It's not as black and white. There's a lot of gray and nuance, and there's a lot of missing information.
Even when we bring people even when people come into our office, and we have 50 minutes sometimes to explore, and we're still not getting the full story. We're spending a lot more time than the OP's 2 paragraphs and then the argument about it, obviously. But there's just so much opportunity to have deeper conversation, and I appreciate that, Lauren, that warning, because so often people. We do want to, and I'm guilty as myself, make that quick decision about the person without diving deeper into it and assuming that they don't want to be a dick about it. So there's something to this.
There's usually something really vulnerable there.
I like going into the comments and seeing the ones that have been downvoted to the point that they have disappeared, because sometimes they're super harsh, or sometimes they're this comment, which is, whoa, no need to diagnose someone over the internet because of one issue. All of your comments are based on one problem. You're making this whole point out of nothing because your boyfriend isn't a narcissist. Like, you are not qualified to label him as such. Seek therapy. Now, that comment, unfortunately, was plummeted into oblivion because it did not fit the norm that everybody was happy with.
Because we can be so quick to call out narcissist and shout narcissist on the internet. Honestly, I sometimes even see therapists do that when they'll post and say, I need, help. I need I need someone to take this client because their spouse is struggling with narcissistic abuse or something like that. And it's like, but if you're seeing them in individual therapy, we don't have a full picture. Now, that's not all calls for those kinds of referrals, but I think we feel really free to toss out that narcissism word these days, and I think we're really prone to using it very quickly and often inaccurately.
I think this is the downside to therapy making its way into social media, is that we've really watered down a lot of complexity and human behavior and relationships, which are all so nuanced and complex, right?
Yeah.
And, Dan, you were saying at some point earlier about if there's a show on TV, right? I talk about this too, right? Healthy communication is not that entertaining, and nuance is not the flavor of the week. And having balance and gray and asking questions is not as clickbaity and not as in vogue as jumping to conclusions, raising red flags, throwing around diagnostic labels. So I think this is something that we are all being called to keep in mind and to do better. Is to really not weigh in. Like, I'm so careful even here. I don't want to weigh in on one person's scenario who I've never met, who I'm missing data on. Like, that's dangerous in some ways. And the internet is getting so, it's rampant with these quick, debates and leave him and this and that. I would just be so, I would be so sad if someone went on the internet, grabbed the, sum total of what everybody's saying and made some flash decision without more information.
Right.
Well, I think about humans we're prone to this just because it hits that dopamine button, right? It hits a high reward button when we do these black and white kinds of assignments here and clickbaity headlines and that kind of thing.
And I appreciate what you offer here is some back and forth, well, have we considered this? And what about this? And what about that? Which really shows that there's so much more to the conversation.
Yeah. Right. And we're happy to sometimes make snap judgments, but then we do want to backwards. Yeah, we like yes, no, and then I walk it. Well, it could be, and you bring a point here that good therapy. The reason there isn't actual therapy in television for the most part is good therapy isn't all that exciting and interesting to watch. Even there's a couples therapy show. It's like 10 30-minute episodes that are 4 different couples, and they've grabbed snippets of it along the way, and they're interesting enough. But if you actually watch therapy in real time, it wouldn't be all that exciting because there's an awful lot of diving into things deeper and having conversations and looking for opportunities to connect with each other and be vulnerable and to move away from some of the sort of stuff that is really fascinating and, as you say, Lauren, clickbaity on the internet that really doesn't mesh with what good psychotherapy looks like.
Right. And good therapists are not telling you to stay or leave a relationship, how to conduct yourself in a relationship. Those are decisions you get to make for yourself. And I would never take over that decision or assume that I know more than the person who's in it. My job is to help them explore their needs and their boundaries and what they want and find ways to communicate that.
Yeah.
But no therapist should be telling you to stay or leave your relationship or some of these big life decisions.
And we get asked. Sometimes people say, should I stay? Should I leave them, or should I stay in the relationship? And I'm like, I am never going to answer that question for you.
Because I don't have the answer.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's no way I can answer that question for you.
I'm not
we can explore this.
I'm not you.
Right.
Yeah.
We can explore what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's going on, get into this deeper. But that question.
And it's not because we're withholding an answer. I have the answer and I'm just not going to share it with you. It's because I don't know what it's like to be you. I don't know. Your values might be different. Your limits might be different. What you're looking for is different. You have to decide that, but I can help journey alongside you to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Michael, anything else from our comments or?
I was gonna add one other thing. So I mean, my very favorite are usually the diversions from the comments. So much of it was okay, a narcissist, leave him, red flags, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And
Nonsense.
then there was this thread of $200 a month for a single person and groceries. Tell us some of the things that you do. Like how do you keep your budget to $200 and what kind of meals do you make? And so then there was like this wonderful outpouring of people on the internet and like looking at like, well, yeah, because really like there was a recent study in 2024 that just said like a single person average budget for groceries is somewhere between $250 and $430 a month. Like, you're really doing a great job. What kind of things are you doing? And she's like, well, I shop at Aldi and I eat a lot of rice and beans and, fresh vegetables. And so they're like recipes.
It's someone who follows an almost entirely vegan diet. It's not that hard to keep the meal budget low. I do see $200 a month. I went, oh, for one person, yeah, I can totally see that.
Right.
So I like the sidetrack conversation. I do want to roll back to this idea of people making the SNAP diagnosis. I saw on social media this and this. I have ADHD. I saw on social media this and this. My husband is a narcissist, or my girlfriend has borderline personality disorder, or I know I'm bipolar. Can you get me to the right? And it's like, hold on a second here. Like, there's a lot of good information out there, and there's also like anyone can say anything and put it out there, and a medical professional, a psychological professional has gone to the 22nd or 23rd grade to learn some of this stuff. You're not going to, as informative as the internet can be, that 45-second TikTok, well, it might sound exactly like your partner. There's a lot more there. Like, let's dive deeper into this and not call anyone a this or that.
Well, and let's not diagnose someone who's not in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've said that people have asked me, well, is my partner a this? I'm like, I've never met your partner.
Right. No.
I have no idea if they are or not. The behavior you're describing may be problematic for this reason or good for this reason, but I also don't know the context of that behavior, and I don't know what actually happened. Like, so often people say, my partner said this, and it's like, well, what happened before that?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened before that?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened before that? And what happened to the 15 years before that? Like, there's a lot of what happened before that here when people just bring in, and this scenario is potentially one of those. Like, what happened before that? And there's a lot more to discuss here.
Yeah.
And I think in general, people aren't willing to put themselves in a bad light. So the version that you get on the internet is definitely the best version of themselves often. But anyway, thank you all three for another riveting debate, into a glimpse into the collective conscious of the internet forums. As always, as we've pointed out a number of times, morality is often shades of gray and not just black or white.
And as Lauren said, conversation is not necessarily the flavor of the week. But you know what? There's some damn good flavors out there, butter pecan being one of them. While it's not maybe the most popular flavor these days, some of those oldies are goodies. So let's keep conversation alive, keep talking to your partners, and assume positive intent.
Assume positive intent.
Yes.
Yeah, please follow and share Veritas Views, any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through the credits for the bonus conversation.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing the show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael McBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. McBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip, interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
Okay, so last season, we started to experiment with some this or that sort of lightning round. So I have some this or that questions for Lauren and Dan today. I don't want you to stop and think about it. I just want you to answer. And then if you want to explain, I'm going to ask you to kind of keep it really quick and brief, right? Because I want just sort of top of mind. They have really maybe little to do with psychotherapy or psychology. So this or that. Lauren, skates or skis?
Skis.
Dan?
Neither. I don't want to ever reduce the friction. The level of friction between me and the ground should never be reduced.
No, this is not. I know you well enough to know that is not entirely true.
No, it is entirely. It is friction.
No.
I refuse, Dan.
No. How many bicycles?
Fine.
How many bicycles are in your house? Okay.
Skis.
Thank you. Okay. This or that, Dan? Van Gogh or Banksy?
Yeah.
Damn, come on.
All right. Banksy.
All right, Lauren.
Same.
I can agree. I like that. Okay. Lauren, I don't know if you've played this before or not, but there are two popular games: Cards Against Humanity or Telestrations.
I don't know the second one, so I'm going to go with Cards Against Humanity.
Telestrations.
Telestrations. Dan, you want to describe the game?
It's like a game of telephone with both drawings.
So
Cards Against Humanity.
Oh no! Yeah,
Telestrations is a lot of fun.
If your drawings are shitty, like mine are, it's even better.
So
right.
the game is you get a prompt and you draw it, and then the next person guesses what it is, and then they draw based on your guess, and so it goes back and forth between description and drawing. Yeah. And the bigger the group,
a little bit of a Pictionary kind of scenario.
Yes, Pictionary.
There you go.
And
I stand by my answer.
Okay.
Stand by your answer.
You stand by your answer.
It's fantastic. I really, that's a great
game.
It
really speaks to my sense of humor and the sex therapist in me, and also the very youthful part of me.
I love it. Okay. And I'm going to pander to my audience a little bit. I forget who I left off with last time. So Lauren, beans or rice?
Oh, that's hard.
I know.
I like both, and they go together. I'm going to say beans just because, as I'm getting older, I find protein to be really an important energy source. So let's go with beans.
Dan, beans or rice?
Beans, but preferably together.
Yes, right. Of course, because they go so well together. That's why it was the forced choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my 5 this or that. Thank you very much for playing along.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Tune in again next week for a whole nother Am I the Asshole debate.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.